Go out to your garage right now and look at your mower. Read the name on the hood. Maybe it says Troy-Built, maybe Cub Cadet, maybe Yard Machines, or Remington, or a badge from the corner of Home Depot you've already forgotten. You think you bought a brand. You didn't. You bought a costume. Because here's the part nobody put on the box. A whole wall of those names. The ones you compared, the ones you trusted, the ones you picked over each other, roll out of the same company. One company? And I'd bet the mortgage you've never once said its name out loud. It's called MTD. For most of a century, it was the biggest name in American lawn care that almost no American had ever heard of. On purpose. It didn't want your loyalty. It wanted the shelf. By the time the power tool giant Stanley Black & Decker bought the rest of it in 2021, MTD was moving over $2.5 billion a year and employing around 7,500 people. And it had done all of that while hiding behind everybody else's logo. Now stay with me, because this is the twist the title's pointing at. The machine you picture when you hear Zero Turn, that quick-spinning rider the landscapers swear by, a little company called Excel built the very first one back in 1964 under the name Hustler. And today, that inventor sits under the exact same corporate roof as the box store badges. The folks who created the category and the folks who flood the aisle with it answer to the same address. So how does one company you can't name end up behind so much of what cuts this country's grass? How can two different mowers sitting 3 feet apart secretly be the same machine? And how do you tell what you're actually paying for? Stick around. By the end of this, you'll never read a mower hood the same way again. So let's pull the curtain back. Those 3 letters, MTD, stand for Modern Tool and Die. It started in Cleveland, Ohio, back in 1932, stamping metal parts in a machine shop. Not mowers. Metal. And that origin matters, because this company never thought of itself as a brand you'd love. It thought of itself as the factory behind the curtain, and it got very, very good at staying there. Here's the wall. Under MTD, you'll find Cub Cadet, Troy-Built, Boland's, Yard Machines, Yardman, Remington, Columbia, Rover, Wolfgarten, and Robomow. Different colors, different price tags, different aisles, different stories told to different buyers, all of them tracing back to the same company. You weren't choosing between rivals, you were choosing between cousins, and that's just the names MTD put its own stamp on. For decades, it was also the silent builder behind store brands, the mowers that wore a retailer's logo, and nothing else. Now here's where you get to catch it red-handed on your own machine. On old Sears and Craftsman equipment, the model number carries a hidden source code. If it starts with 247, that's MTD. If it starts with 917, that's Husqvarna. 2 badges, same word Craftsman on the hood, but the first 3 digits quietly tell you which factory really built it. Go look, I'll wait. That's the trick in a nutshell. The same outdoor operation now even turns out DeWalt's mowers under Stanley Black & Decker, and sharp-eyed buyers have stood in Home Depot and noticed a DeWalt deck and a Troy-Built deck sitting a few feet apart that look like twins, because in a lot of cases, they basically are. But this is where people get fooled. The second they hear same company, they assume same mower. That's not how the game works. When one company owns a dozen brands, it doesn't build a dozen completely different machines. It builds a handful of platforms, the frame, the deck, the spindles, the drivetrain, and then dresses them up. New hood, new color, new name, A couple of feature tweaks, and suddenly, two mowers that share the same bones get sold as rivals at two different prices. That's not an accident. That's the whole business model. But burn this into your memory before you ever set foot in that store again. Sharing a platform is not the same as sharing quality. The badge on the hood tells you almost nothing. The two parts that actually decide whether your mower lasts 2 seasons or 20 are the ones nobody points to: the transaxle and the deck. Start with the transaxle. That's the hydrostatic drive that turns the wheels on a zero turn, and most of them across the industry come from one supplier, Hydro Gear. The trick is that they come in tiers, and the tier is hiding in a model number most buyers never read. The cheap residential units, like Hydro Gear's EZT, are light duty, low maintenance, and for years were built sealed shut with no easy way to change the fluid. Fine for a small flat yard, not built for daily abuse. Step up and you hit serviceable units, the ZT 2800 and then the ZT 3100, which Hydro Gear itself calls its entry-level commercial transaxle, with a bigger motor and an external oil filter you can actually maintain. Go higher, ZT 3400 and up. And now you're in the drivetrains landscapers run for thousands of hours. Same brand on the hood can sit on top of either one. A Cub Cadet can be a homeowner special or a commercial workhorse. The name doesn't tell you. The transaxle does. Then there's the deck. A thin stamped steel deck is cheap and light and dense and rusts. A thick fabricated welded deck costs more and shrugs off years of rocks, roots, and abuse. Two mowers from the same parent company can wear nearly identical sheet metal up top and hide completely different decks underneath. So here's your move, and it's free. Stop shopping by the badge. Pull up the spec sheet. Find the transaxle model. Find the deck type. That single habit is how you tell a 2-year machine from a 20-year machine, even when both came out of the same factory under different names. Which leaves one question hanging. How did a little metal stamping shop in Ohio end up controlling this many brands, this much shelf space, and such a huge piece of the American mower business? That story is wilder than you'd think, and it starts with survival. To understand why MTD spent 90 years hiding, you have to understand how it was born, broke, in the middle of the Great Depression, with no product of its own. In 1932, 3 immigrants from Germany, Theo Moll, Emil Joachim, and Erwin Gerhard, pooled their money and purchased the assets and goodwill of the Modern Tool and Die Company on Power Avenue in Cleveland, Ohio. That's where the name comes from. Modern Tool and Die, they weren't dreaming of lawns. They were a metal shop, and they'd stamp whatever paid the rent. And watch what they stamped, because this is the whole personality of the company in fast forward. By 1935, they were cranking out EGRI registers. In 1936, they made their first automotive parts. Grills for Graham Page automobiles. Then the war came, and in 1944, MTD became a major supplier of military items such as mess kits, feeding the troops with stamped metal. When peace returned and the soldiers came home to start families, MTD pivoted again, in 1952, into pedal bikes, kiddie cars, and playground equipment. You see the pattern: registers, car grills, mess kits, toys. This was never a company in love with a product. It was a company in love with survival, willing to make absolutely anything for anyone as long as the volume was there and the cost was low. That instinct is the key to everything that comes next. Because in 1954, it found its forever home, the lawn. It entered the garden equipment industry with wheelbarrows, and by 1959 it began manufacturing lawn mowers, garden tractors, and other outdoor power equipment. Snowblowers followed in 1968. But here's the move that made MTD invisible and rich. It didn't fight to build its own famous brand. It became the silent factory behind everyone else's. Hardware stores, department stores, big box chains, they all wanted mowers with their own name on the hood, and none of them wanted to build a factory. So how do you fake a reputation you never earned? Simple. You buy a beloved old company that's bleeding out, because drowning brands sell cheap. MTD's first grab came in 1975 when it purchased the Yardman name from Montgomery Ward. First trusted nameplate in the bag. But the move that tells you everything came in 1981. That year, the farm equipment giant International Harvester was sinking under debt, and it had to sell off a jewel, Cub Cadet. And understand what Cub Cadet was. International Harvester had launched it in 1960 as a premium line of heavy-duty little tractors with real engineering, the world's first shaft drive model in 1963, and a pioneering hydrostatic drive garden tractor in 1966. These were machines built for landowners who expected them to outlive their trucks. In 1981, MTD stepped in and acquired the Cub Cadet product line from International Harvester, and in the very same year also scooped up White Outdoor from the Old White Motor Company. Production got moved south to Brownsville, Tennessee. Now here's the honest part, because I'm not going to feed you a myth. Under MTD, Cub Cadet's design shifted. Sources describe changes focused on cost efficiency while maintaining core features from the International Harvester era. And for decades since, longtime owners and mechanics have argued that the old IH-built units, with their heavy cast iron guts, were close to indestructible, while the cost-trimmed MTD versions gave up some of that bulletproof durability. That last part is the verdict of the people who wrench on these machines, not a spec sheet, so take it as the seasoned opinion it is. But the direction is clear. Keep the legendary name, shave the cost underneath. Then came 2001, and the cruelest example of all, Gardenway, the company that made Troy-Bilt, the brand famous for rugged rear-tine tillers built in Troy, New York, with a near-cult following, had been fighting to survive since 1995, and what finally killed it was the stampede to big box retail. On July 30th, 2001, it filed for Chapter 11. MTD moved in and took the Troy-Bilt and Boland's names, plus the service and warranty obligations. What it pointedly did not take was the factory. As MTD's marketing VP Rob Moll put it at the time, the company was not buying Gardenway's factory and would incorporate the tillers and other equipment into its existing manufacturing facilities. The result, 550 employees in Troy lost their jobs, and the Troy-Bilt on the shelf became an MTD machine wearing a legend's name. Now we get to the heart of the title, the zero-turn mower itself. And to understand who really owns this category, you have to leave Ohio and drive out to a tiny Mennonite farm town in Kansas called Heston, population a few thousand. Back in the early 1960s, an inventor named John Deere had a problem every property owner knows. A regular riding mower can't turn tight. It leaves uncut grass around every flagpole, every fence post, every tree. So, Rogier took parts from lawn mowers and farm machinery and built something brand new, a rider steered by two levers instead of a wheel, one for each rear tire, that could spin in place with a turning radius of 0. He couldn't keep up with demand on his own, so he brought it to a local company that built cabs for tractors and combines. Excel Industries, founded in 1960 under President Roy Mullet. They saw it run, and they knew. In 1964, Excel introduced the Hustler, the world's first twin-lever, zero-turn lawn mower. The very first model was the Hustler 36, a 36-inch front-mount mower that sold for around $1,000, roughly half the price of a new car back then. That single machine didn't just sell a product. It created an entirely new product category now known as the zero-turn mower, the exact machine that 60 years later, landscaping crews all across America run every day. Excel never stopped. Out of that little Kansas plant, it built two commercial-grade brands, Hustler Turf Equipment and Big Dog Mower, and grew into a powerhouse with around 600 employees and roughly 1,400 independent dealers across the U.S. and Canada. These are the machines the pros trust. So here's the payoff. In 2021, Stanley Black & Decker bought Excel Industries, Hustler, Big Dog, and all for about $375 million. And that wasn't the only lawn equipment company it was buying. Stanley Black & Decker had already taken a 20% stake in MTD in 2019 for around $234 million. Then, in August 2021, it agreed to buy the remaining 80% for about $1.6 billion, at a point when MTD was generating more than $2.5 billion in annual revenue with roughly 7,500 employees. On December 1st, 2021, both deals closed. The whole thing, MTD plus Excel, for around $1.9 billion. And just like that, the company that invented the zero-turn mower and the company behind Cub, Cadet, Troy-Bilt, and a wall of residential mower brands ended up under the same corporate roof. Think about what that means. The inventor of the category, and one of the biggest forces in the residential mower business. Same owner. From the commercial machine sitting on a landscaper's trailer to the mower parked in a suburban garage, Stanley Black & Decker suddenly had a stake in nearly every corner of the market. Since late 2023, the company has cut roughly 7,000 jobs globally, with another American facility in New Britain, Connecticut, scheduled to close in 2026. Which brings us to one of the hardest hits. In Verona, Mississippi, a longtime MTD manufacturing site, Stanley Black & Decker announced it would close the plant and lay off nearly 600 workers. Now, a lot of people covering this story got it half right. They said the company was abandoning gas equipment? Not exactly. Stanley Black & Decker has said it's discontinuing gas walk-behind, mowers, gas snow products, and gas-wheeled chore products by 2026, while continuing to prioritize ride-on mowers and commercial equipment. Remember the lesson from earlier. The transaxle, the deck. Those are still the parts that matter. A residential hydro gear, EZT, is perfectly fine for a small flat yard and a poor choice for heavy commercial work. A ZT 2800, ZT 3100, or larger commercial grade drive is built for a completely different life. The same goes for decks. Thin stamped steel for budget duty. Thicker fabricated steel for long-term punishment. Two machines from the same parent company can sit side by side and have completely different life expectancies. That's why shopping by the badge is a mistake. No single company literally builds 70% of America's zero-turn mowers. That exact number doesn't hold up. The five biggest players, Honda, Kubota, MTD, Deere, and Toro, account for roughly 65% of the global ride-on mower market. But the reality is still remarkable. One corporation now owns both the company that invented the zero-turn mower and the company behind one of the largest collections of residential mower brands in America. That's a bigger story than the myth. So here's how you walk into that store and win. Ignore the badge. Pull the spec sheet. Read the transaxle model. Read the deck type. If it's an older Sears or Craftsman machine, check whether the model number starts with 247, that's MTD, or 917, which is Husqvarna. Then match the machine to your yard, not to the paint job. Do that, and it doesn't matter how many brands one company owns. You'll see straight through every one of them. If this changed how you'll read a mower hood forever, do me a favor and hit subscribe, because we tear apart the marketing on the stuff you actually buy and tell you the truth the sticker won't. Next up, I'm breaking down which zero-turn brands are truly built to last and which ones are just expensive paint. You won't want to miss it.